Alrighty, good morning everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. Is the recording going and cameras? Okay, thank you. Before we formally open the meeting, Pastor James wasn't able to join us today, so I did invite Dallas Schroeder to provide an invocation and lead us in the pledge.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we come before you now acknowledging you as our Creator. Father, as the one who loves us, who sustains us, who provides all good things for us, and we thank you for that. And Father, just in the last few weeks, you've sent a lot of moisture to our country, and we're thankful for it. It's great to see the fields greening up and the calves playing in the fields. And Father, it's just a reminder that you're in control of all things, and the seasons are set by your time. And it's just a great reminder for us that we can trust in you, that you are in control. Father, just now as we go into this meeting, I pray for a time that is for open communication, a time of understanding. Father, that we can work together as county and citizens to make this place even better. We just pray that for your guidance, for your wisdom, and that we turn to your scripture for that guidance and wisdom. Father, I also lift up our first responders, our sheriff's office, our police departments, our fire, our EMTs. Father, we just pray you put a hedge of protection around them as they serve us. And Father, with our military as well, we pray for protection for them. In the name of Christ I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance.
Yeah, just before we call the roll, I would actually like to ask for just a moment of silence to recognize the passing of a young man earlier this week, Ezekiel Cabrera, died in an auto accident. The names of several of his brothers and sisters are up on the wall behind us. And big family, very active in the community, and he would have been graduating high school and going into the military this summer. So if you could just join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Amanda, could you call the roll?
Commissioner Richardson?
Here.
Commissioner Thayer?
Here.
Commissioner Pettit?
Here.
All righty, we're all present. The time is now 9:03. We'll start with approval of the agenda. I'd accept a motion to approve as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented. I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Alrighty, the first item of business we have is the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the consent items listed. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Alrighty, elected officials, department head, staff reports. Dallas, did you have anything?
Good morning, Commissioners. Dallas Schroeder, Elbert County Clerk and Recorder. I gave a little tease last time about an event that we're going to be having on election integrity. We have set that will be May 20th at 7 p.m. here in this building. We're going to cover some more in-depth things, such as our vendors, how we interact with them, what they have access to, what they don't have access to, how we process ballots to not as in-depth as we do in some of our other events, but a little bit of that. what things are within our control, what things are out of our control, what we feel we're doing good as a state, and perhaps some areas that we could do better. So it's going to be pretty all-encompassing, but I think it'll be very informative for people to come out that are interested and concerned with this past election, and to kind of get a firsthand look at what happens behind the scenes, and that's what we're all about. We want to have full transparency and let people know exactly what we do. So that's our goal for Thursday.
Go ahead.
What time was that?
7 p.m. It'll be right here in this building.
Okay. You gonna live stream it?
We will, yes.
Okay, good. Any questions or comments? No. Thank you. I'm assuming you'll have a lot of viewers and a lot of attendance. Thanks. Sherry, did you have anything? Or, okay. Sam? Or, oh. Mark?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board, staff, elected officials. I'm Mark Denreader, Elbert County Economic Development Manager. Great to be back before the board again this week to talk about Economic Development Week. As you know, at your last BOCC meeting, you all passed a proclamation recognizing May 9th through 15th as National Economic Development Week in Elbert County. So here we are in the week of. We've joined other counties and cities across the country. We're increasing the awareness of the positive economic development work that is conducted in our communities to enhance local economies. So this is a week-long celebration. It started back in 2016 by the International Economic Development Council, the EIDC. Our state economic development organization, the Economic Development Council of Colorado, the EDCC, they're also supporting this effort. The EDCC is providing free live virtual webinars all week. Each day has a different theme. Today's theme is cultivating a vibrant economy. If you want to learn more about the EDCC, go to edcconline.org. This week, we are doing a few things here internally with our Economic Development Department. We're sitting in on those EDCC webinars. We also wrote an article, What is Economic Development? Sharing what we are doing in the department, plans, and our focus. That was in the local paper. Also, you can find it on the county website. We've shared our Elbert County proclamation that you all supported and signed last time. And we're putting out some photos and pushing out comments about the topic through our social media channels at Elbert County Government as well. So as we move along this year, I just want to share a few things again, what our department is working on to carry out our goals. We're focusing on business recruitment, retention, expansion, trying to expand that commercial and industrial sector, help facilitate the creation of more jobs, of course. A lot of outreach, connecting with our leaders, our stakeholders across the county, the region, and the state, really getting out and about. We're supporting COVID relief and recovery as well, connecting businesses to resources and aid related to that. The Small Business Administration has a lot of programs, as you all know. Just to highlight a few here, again, Paycheck Protection Program, that's going to be opened up until May 31st of this year. The Restaurant Revitalization Fund Program, that opened up earlier this month on May 3rd, and the priority period for that is the first 3 weeks. So get in there as early as you possibly can. And there's also the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. So if you want to learn more about that, go to sba.gov. A lot of good information there on how to apply, who can apply, allowable uses of funds. There's videos, tutorials, tech assistance, contact info. If you want to just chat with someone on the phone, that's the place to go. That's a good resource. And then, of course, the American Rescue Plan, ARP, the official guidance on that, as you gentlemen know, just came down from Department of Treasury. So it'll be interesting to see what you all are going to be focusing on as far as priorities regarding to the dollars available through ARP here in Elbert County. As I shared a couple weeks ago at that BOCC meeting, we are putting together an economic development specific website. This is really going to be great, a go-to resource for existing businesses, prospective businesses, developers, etc., folks that want to just find out what's available as far as links and phone numbers to local, state, and federal programs, get some demographics and statistics on Elbert County. And what I'm most excited about, as I've mentioned before, is the mapping resources. So this will be great to be able to go and look at what the zoning looks like, the utilities available, different site locations, and so on. So lots of exciting things. Appreciate your time. And any questions or comments?
I've got one question. As you've reached out, what kind of feedback are you getting?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner Thayer. Appreciate that. Really, the initial feedback has to do with just, hey, it's great that the county is engaged and getting out there. So really excited about it. And also the feedback we're getting related to the specific focus on the commercial and industrial sector, trying to, again, as you know, to highlight the fact that we have so much of our property tax base based on residential, and there's that huge gap, that opportunity on the commercial side. Very, very pleased in our outreach efforts. Thank you, sir.
So, sounds like you have more than can be done in this one economic development week.
Pardon me, sir?
More than you can get done in this one economic development week.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
No, and I think you kind of hit on the point there. 93% of our assessed value is in residences, and not only isn't that a good balance just for predictability of resources for the county, it really points to the fact that we're not as self-sufficient as we ought to be. That we don't provide our own goods and services to the bulk of our citizens. So I think the work you're doing, I mean, from top end, bringing jobs into the county to just being able to, again, get a 2x4 or a sheet of plywood if you can afford it right now within the county. It's very important. So thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Have a great day.
Commissioner Sam Albrecht, County Manager. Just kind of give an update. Mark alluded to the American Rescue Plan. We have applied or begin the process for applying for the first draw on that money. We also got guidance on Wednesday in the form of an 8-page fact sheet backed up by a 151-page interim final rule. And so right now it looks like the broad categories where we can apply some of these fundings will be to support public health expenditures by funding COVID-19 mitigation efforts, medical expenses, behavioral health care, and certain public health and safety staff. This next one is to address negative economic impacts caused by the public health emergency, including economic harms to workers, households, small businesses, impacted industries, and the public sector. 3 is to replace lost public sector revenue using this funding to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue experienced due to the pandemic. 4th is to provide premium pay for essential workers, offering additional support to those who have borne and will bear the greatest health risk because of their services in critical infrastructure sectors. And finally, to invest in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure, making necessary investments to improve access to clean drinking water, support vital wastewater and stormwater infrastructure, and to expand access to broadband internet. The 151-page interim final rule provides more definitions and more explanations on those general categories, along with this 8-page fact sheet. We are in the process of analyzing what that really means, talking to our finance team, talking to our CPA firm, as well as our auditors. They got it all the same day we did on the 10th. So we're all kind of drilling down and trying to make sure that we do this as best, that we have the rules in place necessary to legally spend this money. And then we will develop, our plan internally is to develop a project list, bring that to you guys for tentative approval, and then start spending some of this project money. And we will go out to all departments and elected officials for that project list. Be happy to answer any questions.
Ma'am, if you could, we probably got a couple of questions, and then I'll invite you out. questions, comments, or?
The only comment I have is I'm looking forward to that project list so we have a way of setting priorities.
Yeah, I was going to say that, I guess the two concerns I have is, one is this is money that the nation doesn't have until our kids and grandkids start paying it back. So we really need to focus on using it in a way that will provide long-term benefit. And then the other, just, I guess, in more of a CPA or even auditor question is interim final rules. When do we get final rules so we don't inadvertently spend on something that's later disallowed? So,
Correct.
okay.
There's two big caveats on what this money cannot be spent for. One is to make any contributions to pension funds, and this other one is to we may not use this funding to directly or indirectly offset a reduction in net tax revenue due to a change in law.
So, change in law. Okay. Yeah. Well, we're not under PARA or any other defined benefit, so that makes sense. All righty. Ma'am, you did have a question or a comment? If you could give your name and address for the record.
My name is Bonnie Yost. I live at 3503 Antelope Circle. My question, maybe this is a good time and maybe that not, but is there any plan to protect and to help those people who are coming without checking, without COVID, without any screening from the southern border? They're being pushed into our neighborhoods, and I don't know if we can track that. I don't know if we can assist with their illegal presence. And also, is there a plan to kind of protect our county health-wise as well as legally in the use of this money or some other plan? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That's something we can take up, and this will get, generally the elected and staff official reports kind of tee up new issues for the county, and then we'll bring them on to agendas where appropriately in the future. Okay, yeah, if I could, sir, we'll be transitioning now to open public comment. So if somebody has a comment or question on what has been brought forward. We did have folks that signed up for public comment, so I'll run through that first, and then if there's anybody else that wants to speak on any other topic, we'll take that too. The bulk of the folks here had signed up to talk on a sanctuary county issue. Maggie Weatherby had a different issue, so I was going to ask you to speak first, and then we'll take that. It was, I believe it says construction company and public health. Or constitutional county and public health. Okay, so maybe the same topic. Okay. I had a different abbreviation in mind when I saw CONST. I read it as construction, but
Okay.
So again, if we could, as folks come up, just your name and address for the record, and it looks like most folks are talking on generally the same subject, so.
Right.
Please have your say, and then we'll talk afterwards versus trying to do a back and forth with everyone. So the floor is yours, Maggie.
Okay. Maggie Witherby. My address is 44447 Homestead Road here in Elizabeth. And I'm going to do something here. It's a little bit different. It does relate, all of you back here, it does relate to the constitutional resolution that we have been talking about. And Chris, I appreciate your response yesterday, and I think that probably we'll follow up with more discussion on that. There's one other, this is a concept I wanted to bring up. It's a little bit, it does pertain. Some of you know that Douglas County passed a resolution yesterday. And Douglas County said This is the summary of the resolution. Residents are free to choose how to protect their lives and livelihoods regarding mask wearing, mask requirements, vaccination passports, and such requirements shall not be mandatory in indoor space in Douglas County, nor shall any citizen or business be subject to fines or penalties by local government for failure to wear or require a mask or present a vaccination passport in any indoor space in Douglas County. So, what do we have here? And this is a question I want to bring up. What do we really have here? We have basically a statement on record, and it says what the county is doing in Douglas County. I'm using this as an example. And they have said that they will not infringe on the rights of the citizens relative to mask wearing and vaccination passports. However, what they are not saying is that they are not saying that they are challenging the authority of the state. So if the state or the feds or the corporations choose to implement other policies regarding mask wearing or vaccination passports, Douglas County defers to their authority. Further down in their document here, it says, the board does not wish, this is Douglas County again, to mislead any person or business with regard on how the state may wish to enforce or not enforce the mask order, and that repercussions from the state could ensue. The board can only assure such individuals and businesses that no retribution would come from the county. So Douglas County, again, defers to their authority. If the citizens become subject to federal, state, and corporate dictates, what's really changed for the citizens of that county?
3 minutes.
Am I up? Am I done? All right.
If you had to, if you
I'll
want
make
to
it
wrap
quick.
up, yeah.
I'll make it quick. So basically what I want to say is, has the county interposed itself between an oppressive state and vulnerable citizens? There is the doctrine of lesser magistrate, and also the concept of interposition, in which an authority in a lower level, like a county, would stand in the gap, as they say, when there is an oppressive authority at a higher level, standing in the gap. This goes back to the 1500s, this concept. And I want to talk about that because I think that's central to some of the things that we're talking about here. So, and I have some information, and I'll share that with you later.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie. Okay. Oh.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Pamela Chappell, 30680 Mountain View Trail. Mine is, it's kind of regarding schools, and the youth are standing up for our universities. This is in regards to college parents. It is a group called ICANN is sending letters to universities regarding the COVID-19 mandates. And it recently says that numerous colleges and universities around the country have announced mandates for students and some for faculty regarding receipt of COVID-19 vaccine as a condition of attendance or employment. ICANN has received steady stream of complaints from students at these universities. ICANN has asked its attorneys to send letters to these universities, making clear that these mandates are a violation of federal law, international law, civil and individual rights, and public policy. I had made a copy of this whole document for you. The other one is emergency declaration from the desk of Dr. Meehan, which is the doctor I've been working for this last year. They are also having a huge convention of doctors, scientists, and PPE experts in Florida coming up this month. and they are going to be talking about all the dangers of this vaccination. It says, avoid the experimental COVID-19 vaccine. New research evidence suggests that SARS-CoV-2 spike protein, which is currently available U.S. COVID-19 vaccines, are designed to increase vaccine recipients, it by itself capable of inducing systematic inflammatory damage, especially in the brain. And I'm not going to try to read all this, but I also have copies for each of you for this. And that's really what I wanted to say. Thank you.
With that, I'll just run through the listing we had. Mike Combs.
My name is Mike Combs, 5734 Pinion Drive. One of the things I'd like to ask these people is, with these programs that you're talking about on this money that is supposed to be free to us or whatever, which isn't, we all know, these programs you put in place, are they only going to be in place till that money is spent? Or once they're in place, are you going to just start taxing us more money and keep them in place? Because that's one of the things we see. We see these programs we put in place on federal government money or whatever, then once that money's gone, it refers back to our property taxes and stuff. So I would like to see that in your planning of what happens when this money is gone, so we know where the money's going to come from after that. And the other thing I'd like to speak on is the planning of things being brought into Elbert County. And I understand that we need jobs and stuff, but one thing no one ever talks about that I've seen is, where's the water going to come from? He brought up water, clean water drinking and sewer and stuff. You know, where you have to have water, you have to have reservoirs and stuff to have these plants. You know, we just keep pulling water out of the ground. You know, I've been here for 20 years, and I've got water rights on my property. And something Elbert County needs to think about is, with all these houses they're bringing in, all these community wells and stuff, those of us that's got rights, once our water's gone, we're coming after Elbert County for putting this stuff in without planning, because we have the water rights and we're protected with that. That's something that Elbert County might want to think about. So those are the things I'd like to.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I know, Bonnie, you were up earlier. Did you want to address a different topic?
I just want to know when the sanctuary county will be addressed.
Okay. Thank you. Keisha Combs?
Keisha Combs, address 5734 Pinion Drive in Elizabeth, Colorado. My question is about the sanctuary county for the Constitution. The Constitution is it's something that should be upheld everywhere through all of our government officials, state, city, county. So for this to be a consideration to be voted on, it just should be, that's what you should be upholding is our constitutional rights. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Herb Podef.
Good morning. My name is Herb Pothoff. I live at 1418 Conifer Trail in Elizabeth.
Okay.
I'd like to thank you guys for this opportunity and lady to speak in favor of the sanctuary resolution for this county. The United States Constitution, as all of you know, and I believe have sworn to protect in your oaths of office, is the founding document on which all of our rights and privileges are granted, including the opportunity to make changes to that document if you have a problem with something that's there, and to make an amendment to allow for a better fit for modern society. So in opposition to this document, I think you would display a general disbelief in the founding principles under which it was created. In support of this document, I think you make a clear statement that regardless of our political or personal beliefs on any topic, the Constitution is the basic founding document on which all of our laws, all of our rights and privileges as citizens is based. And even if you disagree, you have to support the Constitution in order to make lawful changes to it to better reflect your society. So with that, my statement will be brief. I appreciate your time and effort and wish you well. Thank you.
Mr. Trent Chappell.
Trent Chappell, 30680 Mountain View Trail. Chris, I'd first like to say I'm glad you're on the mend.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, starting off with the business aspect of this. Being involved in business, I've thought about what we can do to create a business here in Elbert County. We got a lot of negatives, and that's how I would start a business. We don't have the transportation, we don't have rail, we don't have air. We're in the middle of the country, so we don't have shipping. It's going to be hard to get materials here. Next thing I'm going to say is our governor contacted Elon Musk when he heard that they were leaving California. He presented all the opportunities. I'm sure he looked at all the controls in this state and told him to pound sand. So we need to start opening this county up. Next thing is, at the last meeting, we were told that we were ranked 60th out of 64 counties for getting the vaccination. Elbert County has spoken. We don't want the vaccination. We're not stupid people, and I don't believe you think we are stupid. So let's get off this deal. Let's go and create the resolution. As a business owner, I'm looking at this going, do I want to have a business where I can be restricted out of business? Or am I going to go someplace where I can operate? That's one. Next thing I want to say, I'd like to see a show of hands of everybody in this room that would like to have the commissioners' meeting in the evenings. I think you can see it's pretty much unanimous. I think we need to change that.
Thank you. Dan Craig.
My name is Dan Craig, 2550 Gold Creek Drive here in Elizabeth. And I would just like to agree with TC. He said it pretty well. Some concerns that we have with the way things are going. We look at what's happening at the Capitol here, and the legislation that's coming out is damn scary, to say the least. So I'm a small business owner here in Elizabeth, and I was one of the people that got out and pounded the pavement and talked to the people about making Elizabeth a sanctuary town. I talked to between 250 and 275 people. I spent a lot of time doing that. I'd go out in front of the grocery store, there at the filling station, church, wherever, and talk to people. And just about everybody I talked to said, Dan, we'll do that. That's something that we need to do because of what's happening to our small businesses. So I only had a handful, maybe I could count on one hand, that disagreed with it. And so I thought, these people are going to go and send an email to the officials of the town, and we're going to get something done. Well, what happened? They voted 4-3 and voted it down. And everybody I talked to, except just a handful, was all for it. So I think it's politics, and I think politics is where our problem is, folks. and we need to do better than that. And as a small business owner, I'm concerned about my business and all my friends and their businesses. And I think we need a sanctuary county, and I think Maggie was talking about that. And it needs to be something where the state cannot come in and shut our churches down. The state cannot come in and shut our businesses down. The state cannot come in and tell us how to live our lives. And I've got a lot of people I'm talking to in my circles, and we really think it's time to do something because we're fixing to go over the edge. And just bluntly tell you, we're going to be a socialistic government is what the hell we're going for. And that's not where any of us want to be. I don't think you gentlemen, you've got kids, grandkids, I do too. This is not working, folks. We need to stop playing politics, and we need to get down to doing something. And something we can do is make this a sanctuary county. And
Commissioners has
Elbert.
3 minutes.
Yeah. So thank you for your consideration.
Marty Sanford.
Good morning. As stated, I'm Marty Sanford. We live at 35534 Cloud Dance Court in Elizabeth. I'd like to know how many of the people in the audience came here expecting that there was going to be a vote on the sanctuary county status today. I've never attended a county commissioner meeting before, but the time has come for citizens to stand up for what's right and the founding principles of our country. And I think it's absolutely imperative that we move forward with this, schedule a time when it is actually going to be presented, discussed, and voted upon. We can't back down and let the enemy take over. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Roy Sanford. No relation, I'm sure.
Well, Roy Sanford, 35534 Cloud Dance Court, Elizabeth, Colorado. I didn't expect to be standing at the podium today addressing you folks. You heard from my wife. I support what she said, and I would really like to see the Sanctuary County proposal discussed by the board at some time in the future. I'd really like to hear what you have to say. I think it deserves a vote, and so thank you for the time. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you, sir. Gary Bell.
My name is Gary Bell. I live at 4642 Ash Terrace, and I'm here just to echo what you've been hearing.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Renee Burton.
Good morning. My name is Renee Burton. I'm at 33591 Quill Lane in Elizabeth. And I too came here this morning expecting to hear the vote and hear your opinions on Elbert County becoming a sanctuary county. And as a mother and as a former educator and as a small business owner, I ask you guys to bring this forward and don't wait until later. I know they say at a later time, but we need to get this on the agenda as soon as we can. We need to have this matter discussed, and we need to stand up for what's right. We need to stay within our Constitution and not back down. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. And Brenda Atwater. Okay, thank you. Do we have anybody else that would like to speak? I think most everybody's been up. Okay, thank you. All righty. Do we have any public comment on any other issues? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment for now and ask for just reaction from our fellow commissioners, and I've got a few comments too.
I listened carefully to what everyone said, and I'm sure we're going to take that under consideration. We have to do it in a logical, sequential sort of a way. I'm a legal immigrant, and I believe in the Constitution very, very much. One of the things that I want to point out, and I think most of you have seen that, as the state has proclaimed that we must do this, that, and another thing, we as county commissioners have taken the attitude that masks, vaccinations, and other things are people's choices. Whether you choose to have a vaccination or you choose to wear a mask, that's your business, not mine. Now, I understand that there's some other people out there that have different views than that, but again, my view is that people are intelligent, they'll do the right thing for them and their families, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, I think, we've been pretty clear from the beginning that, that was our feeling, that we weren't going to enforce masks or anything like that, that it was up to the people to decide what they wanted to do and stuff. And I'm a small business owner too, and I understand that. My business is regulated by the state. So, I mean, when I look at that and I look at some of the audits and stuff that I've had to go through, which to me are pretty ridiculous on some of this stuff. So you get some of these small businesses that are regulated by the state, and I have a hard time, trying to tell people that, like Maggie said, that, you've got this, the state regulations and that. When they regulate and they can close you down, I mean, as a county, as a commissioner, I don't know how I can tell somebody that disregard those regulations and stuff, because the state's got more power than the county does. And I think, we should be able to run our business the way we want, and, and do away with a lot of these regulations, because it's putting a lot of burden on our businesses and everything else. And I don't know. It's just, to me, I agree with what you're saying, but I also know the consequences on some of this stuff if you're in a business that is regulated by the Division of Insurance and things like that.
Yeah, one thing I would say is, there might be a table between us, but I don't think there's any daylight between what the three of us feel and what you guys feel in terms of what is right. I was just counting back. I took my first oath to uphold the Constitution of the U.S. against all enemies, foreign and domestic, 35 years ago. And renewed that to an oath to support the U.S. Constitution and the state constitution and the laws of the state when I was a school board member, and I've taken that oath 2 times since I've been when I was elected and when I was reelected here. I do take that seriously. We all do. Rick took that oath longer ago than that. It was at the Air Force Academy. I do want to run through a few things, and I'll put the topic on the our next regular meeting. We'll have a real discussion versus response to public comment on what the right way forward to address this is, but we've got to do this in the right way. For those that thought it was going to be on the agenda today, I apologize, but it's not on the agenda. The agendas are published. For those that aren't signed up for the Sunshine List, I'd ask you to talk to Amanda or Dallas after the meeting, because all our documents, whenever we hold a meeting, they're noticed and they're pushed out to people that are on that list, so you'll know what's on that. But we have done quite a bit over this last year that you may not be familiar with. As a Board of Health, we put out 3 public health orders. The first one was to recognize that worship was essential, and to reopen our churches. And I think that was last March or April. Shortly thereafter, the other two public health orders were in relation to the right to assemble and supporting our local graduations, our large high school in Elizabeth and the smaller ones. A couple of years ago, a resolution designated us a Second Amendment sanctuary city in response to the state's red flag laws. We have, when we chose to support our local businesses and pursuing the state's 5-star program to allow them to open more broadly. We were one of 11 counties that did that. Part of that resolution was recognizing the right that everybody has to be treated equally under the law and recognizing that businesses weren't. Those have been targeted recognizably and targeted in response to an action of the state. So we'll figure out the best way to go forward. Like I said, we proclaimed ourselves a right to farm county. My personal opinion is we're in a position and ought to at least be declaring our recognition of the 5 freedoms we have in this nation: to assemble, to worship, to petition our government, as folks are doing today, freedom of the press, and I'm missing one. Did I say assembly? If I didn't, I went in a different order than I usually do. But just in response to what folks had to say today, in terms of challenging what we feel are unconstitutional state and federal rules, we'll continue to do that. What a corporation chooses to do, we may not be happy with, but those are private businesses and they can make private decisions that we abhor, but they're not governments, and they're not something that we can fight a corporation on what they corporately decide to do, or a small business person. If Pam, I do appreciate and we'll look through the material that you brought. The concern about free money, I think I stated it earlier. I'm very concerned about, if you look at what FDR did to pull people out of the Depression, they spent a whole lot of money and things got a lot better in 32 and 33. And by 37, they were worse than they had been. There were more people out of business. Corporations were not, there was no capital left. The country was printing money and doing things that the private sector should have been doing. And it looks like our current president is kind of following that same path, of trying to pump money into the economy, print money, and then do things with it that are going to get in the way of any long-term improvement. But what happens when the money runs out? The one thing we have that in this state that will protect us from that is Tabor. Nobody's going to raise your taxes. Increases in taxes require a vote of the people. So replacing any program, and that's something that we all need to look at. And as I said earlier, is how do we use this money best so it works for everybody in the long term? Not to set up programs that people rely on and then are pulled out from under them. And I know Tabor is another bigger issue in the state, and there's a lot of things trying to be done to weaken it. And even though we all voted last year to put a limit on new enterprises and new fee-based enterprises, the state's looking at adding a whole bunch of fees to fund transportation and breaking it into 4 different enterprises so the number comes below the threshold we voted on. And those are horrible games that are played at the state legislature, where the people vote very clearly for something and they already have a workaround in case what we want passes. And I forget, I didn't write the name down, but the question of why would we consider a vote? I mean, this is America. These are our rights. They are protected. I maybe came at that in a different direction of why should this be a vote? It's obvious. This is an oath we took that we'll protect, but I think if there's comfort in writing, we can look at that. it's not that we disagree with I don't think any of us disagree with the spirit of the draft resolution that was provided to us, but I think at the last meeting there were some pieces on election integrity that really don't work consistently with the way elections are currently held, and that doesn't mean that the way they're held right now is perfect. I don't believe that, but that piece needed to be carved out. And then there's some other parts in that are really bold statements, but they're not something that we can take action on, and just trying to craft something that we can mean what we say and then do what we say. I don't want to just put out, and this is, again, me personally, I don't want to put out just something that feels good and is meaningless. Trent, again, yes, we probably are still hovering around the 60 of 64 counties in terms of vaccination, and you can say we don't want it. That is a personal choice to folks, but I'll tell you, there's nearly 12,000 doses of vaccine that have been given to residents in this county. Somebody wants it. It's our duty to make it available. It's not our responsibility or our role to tell people what they should do, though, but we do make it available. OTC has a strong feeling about evening meetings. We've discussed those several times in the past. We do have quarterly town halls that are much more open. The fact that this number of people showed up today to talk about something that is near and dear to them does show that people can show up during business hours for business meetings. It's not that we're hiding from folks. This has been considered several times, and there's a tremendous amount of expense when you start holding evening meetings in terms of overtime for staff. And then, again, we hold quarterly town halls. We're available anytime to come out and talk to groups. This is a bigger crowd than we've probably had at all but one of 24 town hall meetings in the evening. So when there is something that's near and dear to people, they show up at the time it's going to be discussed. We had watched very carefully what was going on in Elizabeth with their sanctuary resolution. It was interesting. I will just say interesting, and I'm not going to comment on the trustees' actions, but that went through quite a few evolutions. It was watered down quite a bit, and I think what they finally wound up with was, I'm not sure why it didn't pass, just because it really didn't say anything in its final iteration. And that's one thing we don't want to do, is just throw out something that feels good but means nothing. In terms of the Sanctuary City one, that was very specific. We hold the purse strings for the county. We rely on our sheriff to make a judgment as to whether something is constitutional or not, and we weren't not going to provide one dime of public funding for the taking and storage of weapons that wasn't related to a crime. So there's very specific things that we want to address when we do these. And I talked up front about the expectation that there was a vote today, and for that, I hope you don't feel your time was wasted, because we didn't have a document in front of us today, but we'll make sure that we have something concrete to discuss when it's on the agenda for discussion, so we know what we're talking. I think if all of us were to raise our hands right now of, do you support the Constitution of the U.S. and the state of Colorado, you all raise your hands and we'll all raise our hands. That's a given. What we're doing about it takes a little more crafting. As Rick said, as a county, as a state, we're not a federation of independent counties like the U.S. is a federation of sovereign states. We're a political subdivision of the state. We're granted the authorities that we have by the state and by statute and by the state constitution. So working within that, if there are changes to the state constitution, that's something that takes more than just we don't like what the state's doing. That does take action by the people. If you're familiar, the 10th Amendment of the U.S. leaves anything that we didn't grant to the federal government to the states, which we are not, and to the people, which we all are. So if there's something we need to change, I think it's all of us together as the people that need to be addressing it. And then the last comment was to ask for real discussion and a vote. So like I said, our next regular meeting, we'll put something on that we have a draft document so we all know what we're discussing. Any other final comments? No, I do, and truly, I think we all do appreciate your time coming out here today, because this is truly important to us as well. And I guess my final comment, just the Douglas County resolution, and surprisingly, when I read it, it wasn't unanimous, because I do think it said the things that needed to be said in terms of, the first message we put out, which was actually we did at our 9 o'clock meeting, we started with a statement saying, as the commissioners and as the Board of Health, we trust the people of our county to make the right decisions for themselves, and we view our role as providing the best information we can so people can do their own risk assessments and decide what they want to do. That was probably overcome because about 4:40 that afternoon, the governor came out and said we're shutting down the state. So, but that's the tack we've taken throughout this, is we trust the people of this county to make good decisions for themselves, and our role isn't to tell you what the good decision is. Our role is to try to get the best information to you, and that's not always been easy, because we rely on the state to give us a lot of information about ourselves. So anyway, so with that, I've talked a lot, probably more than everybody that came up, so I'll be quiet now, and we'll move forward. So that does finish public comment. We have no discussion items today. We do have 2 action items. The first is approval of our minutes from April 28th, and I would accept a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the April 28th, 2021 minutes as written and dispense with the reading of those minutes.
I'll second.
All righty. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Second item we have is a very brief public hearing for a special event liquor license for the Stampede Rodeo. So it's nice to actually have something that is normal. We didn't have to do this last year because we weren't able to hold the Stampede last year. So I would accept a motion to open public hearing on this item.
I'll make a motion, we open public hearing on Elizabeth Rodeo Association special event liquor license.
All right.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. We're in public hearing. Amanda, did you have anything you wanted to add to what was before us?
No, it's just
It's what they've
annual
always done,
event.
and good.
No changes.
All righty. Do we have anybody that would like to make public comment on this item? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. I would accept a motion to approve the special event liquor license for...
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Elizabeth Rodeo Association special event liquor license as presented.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Special liquor event license is approved. Let's accept a motion to close public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we close public hearing at this time.
Second.
A motion and a second to close public hearing at this time. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We're out of public hearing. That was our last action item. Did want to note that our regularly scheduled meeting on the 26th of this month will not be held, but we do have a special meeting to consider liquor licensing on the 2nd of June 2012 for Elbert Days. And Amanda, did you say there was a second one that we'd be hearing that day?
It's not a hearing, it's just a renewal for
Renewal
Walmart.
for Walmart. Okay, thank you. All righty. Yeah, so for the next regular meeting, I'd say would like to put on a discussion of a resolution or proclamation regarding our desire to protect the constitutional rights of our citizens, I think at that point, we should be able to have some initial discussion on how the second round of CARES Act money would be used. Do we have anything else you'd like to hear? Okay, that'll get us started. So for now, that takes care of what we have for the morning session at 1 p.m. here at this location. We've got several land use items, 2 small rezones, 2 variances, and a minor change to a Metro District service plan. Those will be at 1 o'clock. So it's 10 a.m. now. We're in recess until 1 p.m. at this location. Thank you.